Okay, how do I explain any of this? You know, gang, I miss the weird, obscure PS2 games that we used to play. The quirky ones with questionable design decisions that you've never heard of, the ones that your parents tell you to stay away from. Do you miss them too? Then boy are you gonna love this one. First off, we need to talk about Mystic Knight's history. It all begins on the 25th of February 2003, when was elected president of South Korea. During that time, military research facilities in South Korea were conducting some less than savory experimentations to try and put together a program that would produce easily controlled super soldiers to end all their conflicts. So needless to say, when Roe, who had focused his political career around human rights, learned of these experiments, he was not a happy camper. He tried to get the program to stop and get the word out there about the horrors the previous Korean government was committing, but the National Assembly did not agree with him. Kim Yong-sam, then leader of the opposition, would not allow Roe to reveal what was going on, and managed to convince the assembly of impeaching the president so that the experiments would continue, and that would have been the end of that. But Roe, being a smart, tech-savvy guy, knew he had to do something still. And so, he contacted one of his friends from college, who became a game developer, and told him everything. He then tasked him with making a video game of the truth, so that the whole world would learn of what was going on in South Korea. But by the time the game was complete, Kim Yong-sam heard about Nlogsoft and the games they were making. And if it was too late to stop the game's release, he at least managed to stop the game from coming out of Korea. Sounds crazy? Good, because I made it the fuck up. I couldn't find anything online about Nlogsoft, the company who made this game. Wikipedia? Nothing. IMDb? Nothing. Moby Games? Still nothing. All I was able to find is that they made 2 games, Mystic Knights and some free MMO to serve as Acclaim Games' launch title. The only names I could find were in the game's credits, and since I unfortunately don't understand Korean, I am completely incapable of finding what the people who worked on this game became. So as far as I know, my story stands. But what about the game itself, and how did I stumble upon it? I did explain in my extermination video that I sometimes just play all the horror games I can find, and Mystic Knights was one such game. But more on that later. So let's see, did you subscribe to the channel yet? If so, let's check out this weird Korean game. If not, go do it, it helps out a lot. First off, the main menu looks very cool, with that alien-esque creature's head looking around and blinking. Take a good look at it because you're never seeing it again. No options menu, but an online mode which we are not doing because I don't think the servers still exist. We start the game as Bruce, a biochemist who dresses like a private investigator and just received a letter from Alan, an old friend and colleague, asking us to join him at a military research facility to become his advisor. In the letter, he mentions our ex and joins a picture of a dead whale, which is like super weird and incredibly rude. We make our way to the facility and, unsurprisingly, the elevator crashes. Then, we find a dead security guard, take his gun, and immediately get bombarded by tutorials on how to switch weapons and use healing items. Then, a couple meters later, we find our first enemy of the game. Okay, how long have we been playing for? Oh wow, not even 5 minutes! Where do I even start? First off, let's talk about the opening cutscene. Instead of being pre-rendered or made in-engine like you'd expect from a game from this era, it's a bunch of still images with text and no narration. The art is fine, and if there's nothing particularly wrong with that, I want to point out that this game came out 4 years after Silent Hill 2 and the same year as Resident Evil 4. Both used a mix of in-engine cutscenes and pre-rendered ones, and had voice acting. Now you might think it's unfair to compare this game to these two, who had a way bigger budget and way bigger teams to make cutscenes and record lines. But this game has both in-engine cutscenes and voice acting, just never at the same time, for reasons that elude me. Second off, the Frame 1 tutorial. The fact I get taught how to switch weapons and healing items despite not being able to switch any is already sort of annoying, but what I want to focus on are the healing items. To use a healing item, select one with L2 and then press circle. Simple enough. However, you should know that circle is also the button you press to confirm or interact with items. Since healing takes priority over interacting, you'll absolutely end up wasting a healing item you did not want to because you wanted to check your stock before opening a door. Third off, let's finally address the elephant in the room, or rather, the penis lady in the hallway. You see some sort of bloodied nurse walk toward you, then get killed and eaten by a very, very questionable design of a monster. And once you get back into gameplay, you see this thing with no walk animation barreling toward you out of nowhere. See, I tried playing through this game a long time ago. Went through the intro, got to this part, said something along the lines of nope, 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 and then dropped the game altogether. I think this is one of the worst first impressions a game has ever left on me. It's like going on a first date and the other person suddenly tells you they're gonna stream the entire date. You turn around and run as fast as you can. If you manage to survive this encounter, you'll quickly stumble upon your second weapon and only melee option, the katana. It deals okay damage, although since staggers are a myth, enemies can and will hit you in the middle of your combos, which makes this weapon incredibly bad and yet absolutely essential. Because you see, this game has absolutely zero auto-aim. Once you start aiming, Bruce locks his direction and will only shoot in a straight line in front of him. If the enemy is slightly too far to the side, your bullets will not connect, so you'll waste time and ammo to adjust since Bruce won't turn. The katana, on the other hand, is unreliable but hits in AoE, which makes it somewhat more useful when you're swarmed. I go to explore another room, come back, and enemies have respawned in the main hall. Enemies in this game respawn constantly. Sometimes just going into an adjacent room and coming back respawns the, might I add, pretty spongy enemies you just killed. That's fine, this is survival horror, I'll just run past them. This decision, however, will come back to bite me in the ass later. So far, Mystic Knights really doesn't look like it wants you to play it. It's waving more red flags than the USSR, and we're barely into the game. But since you guys like watching me suffer for your entertainment, I shall press on. After a couple minutes of running around aimlessly, we find a woman in a room with no apparent purpose beyond existing, called Jennifer. She's got memory loss, so we tell her to stay here to avoid the monsters while we try to find out what happened. This is also the first point in the game where you'll hear voice acting, right after an in-engine cutscene. And even if I don't understand Korean, I can absolutely tell that Bruce's voice actor is phoning it in. Just listen to this.
제 이름은 브루스 맥켈렌. 브루스라고 합니다. 당신의 이름은...
It's almost as bad as Dennis back in Extermination.
Damn it!
Blah blah blah, we need to clear the way forward. It's at this point you'll encounter a new enemy type, the... Scorpion on wheel? It's weird, unreasonably tanky, and can hit through your combos, so it perfectly fits this game. It's about here, an hour into this game, that I start to realize I don't think I've seen a safe spot yet, and since the budget of this game so far, I don't think it has autosave either, so how do I save? Turns out I am just stupid, and you need to talk to the random red tech item that barely stands out at all. As I start recording this, I'm still not entirely sure what these things were supposed to be either. They look like pointlessly big TV batteries, so I choose to believe Bruce licks the battery to save. I will admit that I also really hate these save stations. They look like any random piece of machinery you could find around the facility. All of them look pointless, so why would I interact with that one in particular? It's particularly egregious because I cannot think of a single survival horror game where save spots weren't obvious. Typewriters in Resident Evil, journals in Clock Tower 3, and who can forget the ever-popular red flashbang, causing high damage since Silent Hill 2. After looking around a bit longer, we find some lore telling us that this lab was researching, I don't know, super cancer cells or something, and these cells are so unstable you can apply them to metal to make it explode. I don't know what the applications are, but I'd argue that some regular explosives would also do the trick, and as it turns out, I'm right, since the amount of these needed to explode larger things makes it too unwieldy to use. We keep pushing forward until we reach the stairs to the next floor, and after running past a few and are you for real right now? I'd make a comment about these new enemies here, but we won't be seeing them again until the second half of the game, so stay tuned for that. After clearing out the corridor and heading to the stairs, Bruce decides that actually he should go get Jennifer, which would have made me pretty mad if it didn't happen off camera, so I'll just be thankful this game isn't just a massive escort quest. We reach a new area where we meet Jane and Dr. Nielsen, respectively a security officer and a scientist. Neither of them knows what happened beyond the fact that the comms tower exploded and the elevator was destroyed, which means our only way to leave is through the 7th basement VIP elevator. Listen lady, I know this is a video game, but you're kind of messing with me right now. And of course, since he's the main character, Bruce won't let the security officer handle or help him out with the monsters. Side note, but it's really funny that you can actively attack the NPCs, which will make them start to run around in panic until they forget you just assaulted them. I tried to see if I could kill them, but unfortunately, they're either taking no damage or extremely tanky. In the next room over, we find a bunch of security cameras to show us that there are, in fact, survivors in this facility. Although whether they end up survivors or statistics is yet to be determined. Nielsen then tells us that Jane, despite being a trained professional, is on her way to becoming statistics in the library, so we need to go and save her. I feel pretty bad for the resident Jill Valentine lookalike, who's pictured as some sort of damsel in distress throughout this adventure despite being the most qualified to keep everyone safe. Sorry Jane, guess you shouldn't have been a woman. It takes a minute, but once they're all dead, we take Jane back to the safe room. Nielsen tells us Jane doesn't have much time, and we need to go get her an ESA. A quick search online tells me this is an emotional support animal, so I refuse to believe it's anything but. Time to find Jane a puppy in the library. Speaking of the library, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It sucks. Mystic Knights isn't a very pretty game in the first place, but the environment is absolutely abysmal. There's not a single room in the entire game that looks interesting in any way, shape or form. It's just a collection of sparsely furnished, boxy rooms connected by corridors filled with enemies. There's no atmosphere, there's nothing to see, the environment only exists for you to go from point A to point B. Don't believe me? Well, what if I told you that there's also no puzzles whatsoever? You know, these phases in survival horror where you don't need to shoot and instead need to use your brain to solve riddles to progress. Puzzles are very important to survival horror, since they give you some time to breathe and collect yourself while offering a bit of variation to the gameplay. You need those moments of calm, because most people can only go so long in a tense environment without needing a break. Thankfully, this game is neither tense nor scary, so it just results in the gameplay feeling very dull. Anyway, while looking for Jane's puppy, we encounter a new enemy type, some sort of cannon frog that, just like everything else in this game, is way too tanky. He also just freezes up and stares at me after I shoot it a couple times. You okay there, buddy? You can actually make this guy shoot other enemies, but the damage seems negligible at best, so don't expect to clear entire rooms with one of these frogs. We find Jane's ESA, go back to inject the essence of puppiness directly into her veins, and now we're back on track to find survivors. We find some more cancer explosives in a room full of what looks like giant chicken drumsticks, and the path forward is now open. Here, we also find some more lore about what's going on. Somewhat. But the gist of it so far is that these guys were transplanting super cancer cells into clones to try and create super soldiers or something. If you think this is stupid because the cells explode when in contact with metal, you will be correct. But the game will not acknowledge you, so you can sit back down. We also find a news article with the same dead whale picture Alan sent us at the beginning of the game, saying that scientists are blaming the lacerations on the body to an ancient creature from the deep. Only for the same scientists to also say such a creature doesn't exist in the next paragraph, which is pretty accurate to modern journalism. We push forward and... Excuse me? Okay, so I suppose saw blades coming out of the walls would be too silly, so instead we get living bikes in the hallways to spirits in the back repeatedly. No, that's totally normal. What? What are these things doing down here in the first place? And naturally, these guys are obnoxiously spongy, so you're gonna need to run past them instead of fighting. I take my first death to these guys, which results in the very weird animation of Bruce being knocked over, standing back up, and then falling down again to die. Truly a masterpiece of a game. After dodging the bikes in the... God, that's dumb. We find a bunch of survivors in one of the many weird rooms of this game. Kitty, Henry, and Frank. Talking to them reveals that the monsters we've been facing so far are... Wait, what? These things are vampires? Are you telling me that the cannon frog, the bikes, and the penis ladies are mutant vampires? I was expecting these plots to go in many directions, but I'll admit I didn't see that one coming. We get through the rest of the vampire bikers and reach a locked door for which I do not have the key. Which is very strange, since I know for a fact I explored every room on this floor, so where is it? Turns out that to unlock the door to the next staircase, I needed to talk to Henry a grand total of 6 times for him to give me the keycard. 6 times. Thanks a lot, asshole. After this minor setback, we go back to the door and enter what is very obviously a boss arena. You can tell because the room is very large and is stacked with healing items and bulletproof vests. Everything you need to fight the game's first boss, the Penis Matriarch. Other names I had ready for this boss include the Boner Crusher, the Bitey Penny Committee, and Super Girl Cock. I pull out my gun to start shooting and excuse me? Excuse me? How much health does that thing have? I give it an honest attempt and after about 10 minutes of fighting, this isn't gonna work. And this, here, is where the game sins most in my eyes. Remember me running, trying to avoid fighting as much as possible, as you would in this type of game? This just came back to bite me in the ass. You've probably noticed by now that my weapons, in the bottom right, have a level. This is because Mystic Knights has a bit of a RPG system going for it, where the more enemies you kill with a specific weapon, the more EXP you'll earn for it. Leveling a weapon doesn't really change anything to how you play, it just makes you deal more damage. Which is, in my opinion, a terrible system. Especially for survival horror, where you need to save your resources. You don't have the luxury to constantly use your ammo on respawning enemies. Doubly so in Mystic Knights, where the game will never give you any resources outside of boss arenas. So, how are you supposed to build up resources in these conditions? Well, let me introduce you to one of the worst mechanics in all of gaming. For those who have never played a RPG before, grinding refers more or less to the practice of killing enemies repeatedly for an extended period of time for the express purpose of gathering experience points, money, and resources. Grinding is not fun, not interesting, and if made necessary, artificially bloats up the time you'll spend completing a game. This is the first time in my life a horror game is making me grind for levels and ammo. This runs antithesis to every single survival horror game I've ever played. It also doesn't help that drops are not guaranteed and the XP gains are pathetic at best. Couple that with the fact enemies are so tanky that every encounter feels like cutting down a tree and you've got a recipe for disaster. Thankfully, I found out that the locker room is a fairly safe place to grind with a sword, since it only contains 4 enemies that aren't too bad to kill as long as they don't decide it's their turn. So I spend about 30 minutes in there. There, do I have enough ammo now? I go back for round 2 and after a painfully slow, 15 minutes long fight, she goes down. And since only the weapon with which you get the kill gets experience, our gun is still stuck at level 1. Amazing. We get everyone to follow along and reach B3, where Jane comes to open a single door for us before going back with the others, meaning we still have to do all the work by ourselves. We need to get back to B1 so we can go down to B4 and... Why are the B3 walls made of bricks? Weren't we in a high-tech... Oh, did you just put that there so I'd get sucker punched, you dick? Anyway, it's time to learn more about what is going on, because apparently there's a story of larvae and prism gas that was released and excited the larvae and... What? Okay, so apparently we're not dealing with super cancer injected into clones, but weird blind and deaf larvae transplanted into clones to turn them into vampires who move around and communicate via ultrasonic waves and I... This is also the point where the game decides to throw in a murder mystery for good measure, by having Frank die and Dr. Nielsen start accusing Kitty instead of, I don't know, the endless hordes of vampires outside this room. Nothing notable happens after that until we reach yet another place to rest. I just want to express how obnoxious it is that every 3 rooms we have to go fetch the entire squad to come and rest, when all they do is wait for you to clear a path so they can go rest in the next empty room while you can't even find any supplies in them. It's also in this room that we see a larva for the first... That's a larva? That thing is bigger than my head! You're telling me that this blind, deaf, fat fuck sneaked into a room with us, killed Frank, and then managed to slip away unnoticed? Are you all clinically blind? Oh yeah, and this guy confidently says this is a larva, despite also saying he never saw one before. Real convincing, dude. We're back to B1 to find our way around to the second half of B3, so let's do a quick recap of everything. We're fighting extremely spongy mutant vampires with a gun that cannot keep up with them. We're followed by a squad of morons who can't fend for themselves in any way, shape or form. And we've barely reached the halfway point of the game. Can this get any worse? I think this might be the worst day of my life. Damn it! So as it turns out, Dennis from Extermination became a biologist after the events in Antarctica, and now he's responsible for another biological outbreak. No, that's fine. I'm super happy to see this dumbass again with his friend Roger from Wish. Please end my suffering. We learn from Dennis that Monica, our ex, isn't actually in the facility and was off to visit their parents. Which feels extremely frustrating because Monica was the main reason why Bruce came here in the first place. He then tells us there's an armory nearby, which is great because I was getting mildly tired of this crappy old pistol. After this kerfuffle, we get a second cutscene to serve as a flashback showing Bruce, Monica and Dennis when they were still in school, with Monica seeming a bit too excited about Bruce putting stuff on fire before getting back to gameplay. Oh yeah, this cutscene also introduced some hanging sword nudists. At this point, I'm not sure if this is a horror game or a body horror themed biker convention. And once again, I don't get the keycard to go forward before I talk 5 times to wish Roger to give it to me. So thanks for wasting my time, you bitch. It's around this time that I managed to scrounge up enough experience to get my sword to level 4, which makes it evolve into a new sword with a different model. It doesn't actually change your combo or anything, it's still the same sword but cooler. I almost love how unceremoniously the sword just evolves. It's genuinely hilarious. And if I do like the idea of my weapon's model changing as it gets more powerful, this is so half-assed, I'm amazed they even wasted development time making these new models. After that, we obtain the rifle. Not an assault rifle or anything, just the rifle. It starts at level 1 and requires a ton of XP to level up, and if it does okay damage out of the box, it doesn't do anywhere near enough for me to even consider it a serious weapon. We get everyone to a new safe room and get another flashback about Bruce's history with Dennis and Monica, in which we learn that Dennis stole her thesis, then her wife, and all Bruce did was to sit in the cockchair and let it happen despite knowing he could expose Dennis. Until now, Bruce wasn't a really interesting character, but this is a whole new level of pathetic. Like, sure, it's cute that you put her happiness first and all, but brother, your best friend stole your research and your girlfriend, and you did absolutely nothing. Worse, you came back to become his assistant. You are the biggest cock in the history of cuckoldry. Oh yeah, and Roger died to a larva in his sleep. Damn it! For some reason, the entire group starts freaking out about one of them actually being infected and getting the larvae to the group while they rest, while throwing more accusations at Kelly, which not only comes out of nowhere, but also feels like poor Kelly exists solely to get antagonized. Thankfully, Dennis tells us there's a machine that could detect if someone is infected in the engineering department on floor B3, so that's where we're headed next. Kelly is acting fairly suspicious, but I'm sure it's just a red herring. Also, apparently, the lab was built on top of an ancient Indian burial site where they found dead Cthulhu. Notwithstanding how cursed of an idea that is, did you really need to make larvae with its DNA? I'm sorry, what? How does that even make a shred of sense? Whatever, it's time for the second boss, who's taking place in the same area as the first boss. It's a big guy with a stick and a pod on its back. He smacks us around and spawns daughters. Now if I had a nickel for every time I mentioned Mpreg on this channel, I'd have 2 nickels. Which is about 2 nickels too much. Hope you were leveling the sword, by the way, because it's your only weapon that can hit multiple targets at once, and the daughters parry bullets. And listen, I know I talked about this game's environments already, but really? Are we really recycling this room, of all things? The rectangle with render distance solo is makes Silent Hill look cutting edge in comparison. Anyway, we don't get to finish off the boss, because whatever the fuck that is comes to pick it up and pieces out. At least our gun is now level 4, which is something. We get the peanut gallery down to B3, and Dennis wants to talk to us about the research taking place here. He mentions Kaiser, a bioweapon made with ancient DNA that's supposed to be able to cure any disease, but grow out of control and... Yeah, sure, whatever, man. A bioweapon that cures diseases, vampire larvae used as a power source, ancient burial site. Were you guys fucking drunk? Dennis wants to try and control Kaiser, but will ultimately leave the choice to us and yeah, we're killing that thing. We then meet a new-ish enemy type that triggers my extermination PTSD, because it jumps around like the flesh bats. Thanks, I hate them. At least they give a generous amount of XP when killed. Not too long after, we reach the detector room. We go to try and use it and power is off. Of course it is. Whatever, it's just a matter of 2 minutes before it's back on and we can start the screenings. Turns out, the imposter is Henry. Wait, what? This guy? The same guy who's not important to the story in any way, shape or form? The same guy I had to talk to 6 times so he would give me a required keycard? I'm sorry, but I don't care. Kinda feels like it was just a loose end for the writer to get him out of the picture, because he then proceeds to pull the trigger himself. Without any transition, Dennis tells us about a mental link between the Ancient and Kaiser. Dennis, I'm sorry but I stopped listening about 20 minutes ago, so that sounds like a you problem to me. We then meet yet another new enemy type and honestly, I haven't talked about the enemy design much, but they're overall pretty cool. If we discount the penis ladies and whatever that is, these monsters look kinda neat. The designs are consistent across the entire roster and pretty memorable overall. It's just a shame that the first ones you'll see are so god-awful compared to the later vampires. Also, for some reason, I already have about 60 shotgun shells. I don't even have a shotgun. This point in the game somewhat feels like the level designers started giving up, because now we're getting literal monster closets instead of proper rooms. Although in hindsight, I realized that most rooms in this game are just monster closets with nothing in them any. Floor before time, and I already hate this place. Not just because it's ugly, but because the spider nudists going back to the ceiling are getting on my nerves. The floors are starting to look like the Aliens movie, which I'm not sure is because of Kaiser's influence or because the lab was built this way. It looks fine, I suppose, especially once we find the larva incubation room. It's nothing too special, but it's marginally more interesting visually than the rest of the random tech items around the lab, I suppose. We then reach a suspicious corridor with 6 doors on the map, only for a cutscene to show us Jennifer is getting attacked and weirdly cult-adjacent automatic doors close on us. So I guess we need to go and save her. Oh yeah, the cutscene lied, by the way. The doors are open once you're back to gameplay. They just reopen to force you to walk through them and get smacked. Don't go around looking for a key, because you see, those aren't just regular doors. They are... vampire doors. Vampire doors. Doors that are vampires. The doors are vampires. I can confidently say that vampire doors are a first for me and oh my god, why are they so tanky? These might be some of the worst design enemies I've seen in a very, very long time. Not only do you have to get smacked to get them in a vulnerable state, you have the option of kicking them to open up, but they'll immediately smack you again when you try to walk through. So you just have to slowly whittle them down while they do absolutely nothing. This is with a level 5 sword, by the way. This is a lumberjack simulator now. On my first attempt, I took so long, Jennifer actually died and I had to redo the entire thing. Second try though, we just power through and wait at the weird assassins and Jennifer until she's saved. Minus a digit or two. She was taking a walk and somehow walked past me and a billion monsters, so I'd say that's pretty good. Now, we're off to find Kitty after she ran away, so it's back to the doors. Nah, I'm kidding, the doors don't respawn, that would have been evil. Doesn't take too long for Kitty to show herself again and tell us the lab wasn't experimenting on larvae. I know, Kitty, I've read the files and I can see the boss arena on the... Jesus Christ, that arena looks unreasonably big. Also, just as unceremoniously as before, our sword evolved again at level 7 and just... Look at this thing! What am I playing? What's the tone of this game supposed to be? We enter the boss room and the whole gang comes along for us to discover that Dennis lied and Monica is actually down here with us, in some sort of cocoon. I'll tell you more about what's going on, but I kinda zoned out when I realized how much the mic used by Bruce and Dennis saturates.
알렌, 대답해! 넌 거짓말을 하고 있는 거야! 아니야! 어떻게 된 일인지 말해, 어서!
That poor Mike sounds like it's in pain. Where was I again? Oh yeah. Larvae comes out of Monica, jumps into the water, turns into a giant monster, Jen dies, boss fight. Unsurprisingly, all of her 7 sword kind of melts through that thing. But it seems the devs were aware you might have fun with it, because this giant demonic whatever can poison us. So yes, finally the serums are useful. And since enemies do not drop any more of them, I hope you stocked up the early game. Oh yeah, and I was right, this arena is unreasonably big. It's so big in fact that while running around to pick up supplies, I genuinely lost the boss in the darkness for a solid 30 seconds. But eventually, it falls like the rest.
꼭 와줄 거라 믿었어.
죽이면 안 돼! 모니카!
Monica is on the floor, and as we go to check on her dying self, she requests that we never forget you? Bitch, you literally married Bruce's best friend after he stole his thesis! No wonder you inflicted toxic during the fight! We go down to B5 and the team finally acknowledges Jane's death. Took them a hot minute, knowing she helped protect them throughout this entire thing. B5 is... What is this carpet? Did I just walk into a 90s arcade? And why are we back to early game enemies? Actually, I'm not gonna complain, because it means I'm not chopping trees for a couple minutes. We also find the shotgun, sorry, I mean the shot, on the ground. Not next to a corpse or anything, it's just chucked there unceremoniously. Could you at least pretend like you care? At least, this shotgun is incredibly good. Even at level 1, it only takes 2 shells to take down some of the tankier enemies, and since I effectively have infinite ammo for it at this point, I ended up maining that thing for the rest of the game. I don't think it even has damage fallout. I got it to level 2 pretty quickly, and it's day and night how nothing can stand in my path anymore. Nothing notable happens after that, until I find a note talking about Kaiser. It's made of ancient DNA and... A what? A palmate leaf? Wait, what do you mean it's already 30 meters tall? Why did you keep going, you fuck? This is also the one puzzle we get in the entire game, where we need to carry color-coded larvae to replace power cells in the generator room, which I still think is mind-numbingly stupid. If you ever feel like playing this game, first off, why? Second off, Take 2 of each color in the lab, here's where you need to put them because the lore doc telling you what to do is disgusting to read. We level up our shotgun again, then get the gang to a new room. But we get separated from them because suddenly there's tripwires around the facility to close down doors for some reason, and we have to take the long way around. At least, it allows us to meet our final enemy type. Some sort of gorilla snake? It's invulnerable during its attack animations, which makes it very annoying to deal with. It has a lot of range and health, it comes in trios and barely gives any XP, so we'll just ignore them. If you're still trying to follow the story, turns out that the research facility needed to implant a larva with Kaiser's DNA into a highly pure human organism. No, it's not Jennifer, get the fuck out of here, it's Monica. And since Dennis willingly took her out of stasis despite the fact he knew it would kill her, his in-game is either utterly fucked or he's a complete moron. I'm leaning towards the latter. Back with the gang. Nielsen is dead. That one I'm kinda miffed about because he made a lot of funny faces. And look, it's Kelly. Back at it again, finding dead people and getting blamed for it. You guys are dicks. Looking at the map, it seems like our next objective is gonna be another boss and oh my god, did you really fit 4 enemies in that tiny corner? Literally, how? Hey look, it's that guy who kidnapped the second boss. He poisons and makes a lot of laser attacks, but the shotgun is so broken that it goes down too fast for it to really matter. Or as fast goes in this game. Dennis, Kelly and Jennifer then come to meet us in the arena, and Dennis conveniently remembers he had the keycard to B6 all along. Couldn't you just... never mind. B6 was genetic splicing, and despite being the director of the facility and having the keycard to this place, Dennis pretends like he had no idea what was going on down here. Could Dennis, the man who willingly killed his wife for no reason, be lying to us? Again? Oh yeah, and the bikes are back. Thankfully, we have better guns now, so we can kill them in about 3 to 5 business days instead of a month. Sword is now up to level 8, although it's become slightly less useful since enemies are now doing way too much damage for it to be reliable. Those instant grabs that beat you up for 4 seconds in the middle of combos are no joke. We get another proof that everyone in this facility was stupid because some researchers didn't tell the director that the larvae are hermaphrodite and thus can reproduce easily. So I guess they just had wanted to die. The rest of this floor isn't interesting until Kelly calls out Dennis for being a liar and like, yeah, how could you tell? Not like he killed his wife in front of us and lies about, oh my god, stop abusing this mic! Kelly's call out doesn't end well for her because a couple rooms later we find her dead. Oh wow, who could have seen it coming that she wasn't the killer? We find her journal on the ground, revealing that she was a reporter investigating the facility and... Huh? What? Are we really doing this now? Is this really the kind of big reveal you wanted for Dennis? He's an ancient vampire. Oh fuck me dude, that's hilarious. We call Dennis out too and finally reveal that he's been evil the whole time, if it wasn't obvious yet from him killing his wife in cold blood or the constant lies. But plot twist! Dennis wasn't the only ancient vampire, because Jennifer is also one! Which raises about 1 billion questions as to why she wasn't detected as a vampire by the machine in B3. Then, they transform in a cock and balls of light before disappearing into a different room. And after a quick chase, we catch up to them and... dude, that took the weirdest of turns. And the best part is, this is the only time in the entire game where you get to choose who you side with. So our options are Jennifer, the amnesiac girl who's been useless and put herself in trouble throughout the entire game while revealing last minute that she's important to the plot, or we could go with Dennis, the guy who started off thesis and wife, who was trying to act like some kind of mastermind despite his plan making no sense at all, who killed Monica despite knowing what he was doing, who lied to us throughout the entire game, was just a slimy fuck of a traitor. If you picked anyone but Jennifer here, I'm sorry, but you're stupid. Because Dennis will backstab you the moment you're done killing her. So we picked Jennifer, and what would you know? Just like everything else, Dennis falls to the mighty boomstick while Jennifer barely does anything useful. Now that Dennis is dealt with, Jennifer and Bruce can go and stop Kaiser together, but actually no, we're doing it alone. Jennifer drops some last minute lore about how she was supposed to fuse with Dennis to control Kaiser, and that she's a clone who shouldn't have emotions. Her being a clone also makes sense as to why she had no memory, but actually it doesn't, because not having any memories isn't the same as not remembering anything, you stupid bitch. Jennifer tells us to never forget Monica for some reason. dies, and then Bruce wonders how will he get rid of Kaiser now. The shotgun Bruce. It's always the shotgun Bruce. Praise be to the mighty boomstick. We make our final save for the run, then head down to B7 to finally face Kaiser. To face this guy again and then fight Kaiser. We've already faced this guy before, so moving on. Time to see the real final boss. Wait, that's Kaiser? The giant monster made from a leaf and Cthulhu DNA? It's a fucking chicken! A chicken that spits flames and has a human face and... Oh boy, we're gonna be here for a while again, aren't we? This fight isn't particularly difficult either. Kaiser telegraphs its attacks so much you can easily get out of the way. But you're still gonna be here for a while, because not only does Kaiser spawn tanky ads, you can only damage it when its stupid human face is close enough to the ground for you to shoot it. Thankfully, if you sided with Jennifer, she'll show up after you whittle its health down to 75% to bomb Kaiser and take out 50% of its max health. Thanks girl, finally doing something useful. And after a 30 minutes long, grueling fight, finally it's over. We get a final slideshow of the facility exploding because we're out of budget for an actual explosion, get rescued by the military, and we are done. Wait, are they trying to sequel bait? With a game like this? In 2005? Yeah, I don't think that worked out. Oh yeah, and we unlocked player selection and ancient vampire transformation for new games, but we're not doing that. So, what do I think of this game overall? Well, first off, let's get that out of the way, it's a disaster. Gameplay is extremely dull, the level design is non-existent, and the story fumbles harder than a drunk guy trying to walk in a straight line. But at the same time, I've seen worse. It's a bad game, but a fairly tame one that only wasted about 6 hours of my life. And the story, as poorly written as it was, still kept me pretty entertained alongside the enemy design being fairly nice. Fuck the grinding though. If you've got 6 hours or so to waste, I guess you could give this game a try. If you look online, you should be able to get a copy for just about 3,000 bucks. And if you do give this game a shot, my only question to you is... why though? Anyway, this will be it for today. As always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. I'm gonna go dark for a bit, so Misa can escape this